Okay, there we go. Let's do this. I'm on Facebook.
That has led me down this panel or this channel to be a performer, and now talking to you. And I went back and found my orphanage 3.5 years ago with a friend of mine who's also adopted out of the Philippines, and her name is Brandy Shigley. And we found out in this journey together that we were actually adopted both out of the same orphanage, and she left about 6 months before me. So it just, the story still gives me goosebumps every time I talk about it. It's just one of those beautiful things that God wove together for us to discover now. So as a performer for myself personally, now I just get to play music. And like we were saying, there's different modalities on how to become, more enlightened, whether we're meditating, whether we're praying, whether we're dancing or getting our groove on. And that's what my job is to play and DJ shows for some of the most enlightened and powerful entrepreneurs on the planet. So that's what I do. That's my basic story.
Yeah. And we were talking a little bit earlier about how kind of I see what you're doing in a similar way to what I do is when I teach a class or I lead a workshop or I'm speaking at an event, I go into it with the intention to really serve and really help people become more connected to their authentic self. And I think for me, my perspective on your work is that you do the same. It's just your modality is music,
Yeah, absolutely.
And do you find, because we were talking about this earlier, I find that for me, whenever I'm really stuck in something or I'm trying to use my head too much, music is the best way to help me get out of that mental space. And my favorite thing to say is that I have a musical parody of my life. They just play theme songs all day. So it's pretty fun, actually.
What's your theme song? I would love to know what Janelle's
theme song
is. Do you have one? Do you have one for like when you're down? You're like, I need to get out of this. I need to switch.
Oh my God, no! It can range I'm not kidding when I say this. It can range anywhere from Lucky Charms, the commercial, to Singing in the Rain, to it's you run the gamut of what the musical of Janelle's life is on a given day.
No, that's hilarious.
It's funny to me. And I've, when I walk with friends or I'm, kind of doing my thing and not really leading, literally there'll be songs throughout the day that just play themes around what I'm doing or, what's going on or whatever,
I would actually say, so you make a really good point there. One of the things that I know that I do and that my calling is to lay out a really beautiful soundtrack to people's experiences. So when it comes to my job or my mission, when I go into event spaces or when I go to parties or anything like that, I know that it's my job to channel the energy of everybody that's there, whether they're 70 years old or 15 years old, whether they're from Estonia or whether they're from Albuquerque, New Mexico, or Pueblo, Colorado. I get to pull in the energy and all of the different experiences that those people have and channel it into one beautiful soundtrack for everybody. And sometimes there's a technical aspect to it, and then there's like a spiritual aspect to it. And how I can kind of explain what I've been able to do with that. So one year I was playing for Afest, which is a festival held by MindValley University, and I was just meditating on the plane, trying to figure out what is a great song to play, what would be a really good song that could unite everybody. And there was a song that Avicii wrote called "Wake Me Up," and it had been sent to us in our little circle of producers and DJs. So I'd kind of heard it. It didn't mean anything, but I looked on the screen in the plane, and there was like a little snippet of it. Mm-hmm. And just inside, I was like, oh, wow, what a beautiful message. And then the song it became one of the anthem songs for that. And that came about from me just kind of being open to source to tell me what is going to resonate with this group. And then when I delivered that song to that group, that's one of the songs that unites people around the world through our channel, as well as a couple of ones from Calvin Harris and things like that. So it's this amazing ability to stay so attuned to the things that are around you, just like you do. Like you said, you're like, I feel things, something jumps off the screen at me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I need to know more about this person or this event.
Right.
And I can totally see that in how you show up in the world. And I know, like, when we had our first little exchanges, we were like instantly like, yes, we must definitely connect.
Yes.
So, yeah, so that's what I do. I try to really read the room. I did a big event for Digital Marketer, and that one was a little bit more technical. So I saw that I think there's maybe 6,000 people at that event. And I went through almost 70 gigs of music trying to find out exactly, as I'm playing in front of everybody, to see where people are starting to move, how people are reacting when I play a certain song and this and that. And it just takes some finessing, and it takes a little bit of intuition, but it really does. It comes down to the exchange of energy and understanding of how you can be attached to everybody as much as you can.
I have a great visual on that. It's funny because I really feel music. Like, it literally will ripple through my body. And I think, because it's the whole energetics thing, but I think people, because we get so like stuck in whatever is going on in the world or whatever is going on in our mind or emotions, whatever, that's one of the sensory things that I think we almost dismiss in a way. We say, oh yes, the song moved me, but we don't really honestly give it the credit it probably deserves in our life,
Yeah.
There's songs that really mean things to us at certain times, and especially when you're going through something emotional or you're having a difficult time, there's songs that help you get through that.
Yeah, absolutely. And isn't it, I think every great personal development person on the planet will say, motion creates emotion. What better way to fully emote and become changed radically with your state than by throwing your fists up in the air and getting down on it, or with people that are going through the same, ecstasis and really attaching. I've had so many great memories from the perspective of being an entertainer and specifically a DJ, watching people like really connect, fall in love, really learn, just learn how to be a kid again in so many different ways. And that's probably the most special thing in being able to take the helm in that kind of a space, is that, that when done correctly, I think my favorite thing to hear from people when it's done correctly is like, I've never seen Uncle Bob, or I've never seen Kelly dance before. I've never seen him do that before. And that's amazing. I think it's almost primal. It's the kid-like energy in you. And if you can do that in any space, and I'm sure you've learned to do that with the Spiritual Happy Hour, just like pulling that beautiful spot that might lay dormant or it's in the dark. And when you can do that, man, we have something so special. I just think it's such a beautiful gift to be able to do that, and that's something I've worked really hard at doing, and I've learned from some of the best on the planet on how to do it. But it takes me in these great, beautiful directions. Like now I'm chatting with you.
I it's a very good connector. And I think, you know, like we were talking about earlier, you know, the part, you know, the part of us that we let go of is always the kid self, you know, and I have a 7-year-old son, and he will very freely dance with me and does not care what it looks like, and doesn't care how he, you know, how he looks, you know, whether it's, you know, Journey or, you know, whatever it is, he's going to jam.
Well, let's be honest, everybody can dance to Journey.
Yes, yes. But you know, he'll also jam to, you know, It Takes Two. So
yeah, no, absolutely.
I've exposed him to all music. But you know, as you know, I'm in the South. You know, we're rolling in Texas over here, so you know, definitely some country vibes over here, I would say.
I just did a country song yesterday. I was just practicing some Darius Rucker. My whole roots started in guitar and music and songwriting, so I just love all shades of country. And then we were actually talking previously that you're in Texas, and I had lived in Texas for a while, but Texas is where I really learned about the passion of music. Like, the people that I was around, they were making instruments out of old cupboards. And I'm like, what did you do? And they're like, oh yeah, I made a bass guitar out of this old cupboard drawer.
Yes.
And I'm like, wow,
Yes.
you guys need apps. This is crazy. But it was nuts. It was where I learned the most about music was in Texas. So I have a soft spot for your space.
I think, you know, Texas to me, just like I told you, there's something special about being here and doing the work that I do here, you know, and opening hearts and really connecting people authentically, you know. But Texas is my love. Like, I've traveled all over the place, and it's my love. I feel it when I'm here. You know, I feel it when I hit the ground. You know, it's very interesting.
Yeah. Oh, it's so amazing.
Yeah, to me, I experience it as heart opening. And it's probably a lot to do with how I view it, but but I find it's great. I really enjoy the space here. So what are the things that
you're something with your audience too, when it comes to heart space and opening up with music? It has something to do with, I think, really aligns with what you're talking about. Yeah. So it has to do with frequency, and I want to just introduce this concept to you. You may know it or you may not, but there's a couple universal frequencies when it comes to the notes of music. And I want to just share this with you because I know that you're big into meditation and you help people bring that out in them. There is a frequency that's actually natural in nature that a lot of people don't know about, and it's the 436 or 432 is the frequency, right? So most songs are written at 440 hertz, which is the A note, the Western A note. There's a frequency that a lot of people don't talk about, which I'll send some links for you and your audience to check out, where they actually write music in this universal tone. And you can see what will happen if you play this type of music. You play a certain frequency on a sound panel, and you put sand on this panel. If you play 440, the sand gets chaotic and it looks nuts. And then when you play this frequency, I believe it's 432, let me just make sure. When you play that frequency, it actually turns into a perfect, nature's perfect, what would they call it? It's not tetrahedral, but it's 432. It's called the miracle tone. And it's amazing when you listen to it, your body actually frequently feels better and you move into a different energetic space. And it's 432 hertz is exactly the frequency. I was always mixing it up. But I'll mix music like that, and I'll literally watch a frenzied crowd come down a bit. And I'll watch people get closer. And it's an amazing thing. So it's something I always share it whenever I'm playing music. I actually play it for my niece and nephew when they kind of get nuts if they're hanging out with me, and I know that it kind of settles kids down a little bit too. But I'll get you some links on some amazing music that's mixed in that fashion, that's written in that fashion.
Oh, that'd be great. My audience.
Yeah, and then some of the music that I write too is in that same vein too. And at first, people will hear it and they don't necessarily know how they're feeling, but it's because it's actually energetically moving them in a different way. It's aligning things in a better way. It's an incredible power, as well as, binaural beats and things like that in the meditation courses that a lot of people put out there. So just some other things to chew on inside the fun musical space.
You know, I find when I'm teaching, you know, that and I've talked to a couple of my people about like recording my voice and seeing what the frequencies are doing, because the way that I connect is channeling, right? So it just comes all through me. Mm-hmm. And I know there's a tone, there's a resonance, there's a frequency, a megahertz frequency that comes out depending on what I'm doing with the group, you know. So I would love to measure that, you know, one time when I'm teaching and kind of see, you know, what is actually going on behind the scenes, because I know it, I feel it, the audience feels it, but it'd be cool to have the science behind it.
Yeah, that's so cool. I would love to, man, your kids, I'm envious of your kids. I bet you read the best bedtime stories I can tell you.
Oh yeah, I do. Yeah. I'm like, and the dinosaur said, rah, you know.
That's amazing.
We have a great time in my house.
Sure.
And I have 3 kids. So, you know, my oldest is like 22 and she's off on her own. And then I got a senior in high school. And then I got my little guy who's like he's like the equal to me in spirituality. Like he just walked in that way, you know, and it's a beautiful thing to foster that.
That's awesome.
And he's into music like crazy, which is great. But we joke around and have a lot of fun together and really enjoy each other, you know. But I think, you know, one of the things that for me is always important is connecting with people that I know are moving forward and growing in ways that kind of spirituality and science are kind of meeting, you know?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
That's one of my, I call it my nerd part of myself inside of the blonde that's actually a monk. That's my rendition of myself, but don't let the Barbie self fool you.
I never did. I knew you were a blonde monk. I knew it. I knew it.
Yeah, that's my running joke with all my friends. But the nerd part of myself is always really interested in the science of how, you know, the body connects the energetics behind all of the megahertz frequencies and you know, because we're just code anyway.
Right.
And, you know, if you connect with that in the right way and you move in a certain frequency and a resonance, then that's where magic exists.
Absolutely. I subscribe to that theory 1,000%. I think that when magic, aka source energy, love, that coincide with the physical science and this, and you take quantum physics and then you match it up with how manifestation works and how, like, now they're starting to measure these things quantifiably so that everyone's like, oh my God, these things all make sense. It's crazy. I love that magic pairing. So it's incredible how that works. In fact, my buddy just walked in who I was telling you about this afternoon.
Oh,
It was so serendipitous that we were all, yeah, this is Arzell. This is Janelle. Hey. You're on the spiritual happy hour right now with everybody.
Good morning, Janelle.
Well, good to have you on board. I heard about you earlier.
Yeah.
Well,
tell me about your shoes.
So with Sweet Feet and the shoe movement?
Yes.
Amazing.
So I'm actually wearing one of the t-shirts right now. But it's Sweet Feet is short for Society Wins Every Engagement Together, Fighting Every Engagement Together. And we link up, we match different sponsors with kids that need help stepping in the right direction. So we get kids a brand new pair of shoes, and then, you know, those shoes are built to or be vehicles for those kids to become a champion one step at a time. Oh,
that's a great mission. And I'm glad you shared it with us. Make sure that you give me the link so that when I put it up, I can put that link in there too. Because I'm all about giving back, so that's really important.
That's awesome. And what's nice too, it pairs perfectly with the foundation that I have too, which is called the Foundlings, which is putting tablets in the hands of orphans around the world so that we can stay in line with their education and figure out exactly what they need. And we're starting with my orphanage in the Philippines, so we're like, Arzel, my orphan too. And they need education. And so it's like this beautiful pairing. Plus, with the spiritual happy hour, they need inspiration and ways to stay aligned and motivated with your help too. So it's all a serendipitous, beautiful connection. So I'm excited.
It exactly is. So let me know what you got going on that you're working on.
So right now I'm doing, I have two really amazing projects that we're doing that are happening immediately through the Foundlings, which is the nonprofit that I started. And that was born out of me traveling back and finding my orphanage, finding my origin story. And the first event that we have coming up is on September 23rd. We are hosting one of the largest meditations. We're going for a Guinness Book of World Records, where we're going to have the most people meditating at one time using silent disco headphones, and around the world we're trying to get 10,000 people meditating at one time.
Okay, share that.
I'll share that with you. That is a huge thing that we're doing. And then in November, I go back to the Philippines to visit with my orphanage and really dial in what the education platforms need to have for the kids so that we can stay aligned with them. And we know that there was you're familiar with Peter Diamandis and his book, Abundance? Have you read that one?
Yes.
Remember how he dropped, so for those that may not be familiar, he dropped these tablets in. They have the X Prize, and the X Prize winners stated in this book were actually they dropped these tablets into these remote jungles in Africa, and what happened is, or was it Africa, whatever they did, they dropped tablets into these kids, and these kids found these tablets, opened them up, and they were reading in just a few years, which was amazing. And that was 7 or 8 years ago. Now we know that with the robustness of new software, how good tablets are, and how fast information can get to a kid, that if you give these orphanages and these kids that get shoved back into a really broken system a tool to use to get education, to learn entrepreneurship, to learn a skill set, maybe DJing or sewing or whatever, we can track that with them, stay up to date with them, and then we can track where they're at if we need to, so they don't get in harm's way, and we do that. So the Foundlings' job is to educate kids out of oppression so we can give them opportunities. Usually kids turn to drugs, alcohol. There's a ton of suicide that happens in all orphanages, not just in the Philippines. And I know that for my mission right now, in Manila alone, there's 1.8 million orphans in that city. And that was an LA Times study and a New York Times study that just came out. And that is just so daunting and so out of control. So my mission is to make sure that I'm lending all the energy that I can there. So with this first meditation on September 23rd and then the trip back to November, those are kind of our two big things. But when people ask why I play music and what I'm doing, that's what I'm doing. I'm playing for my brethren and my kids back home. So my mission, along with Arzel's mission to put shoes on all the kids that need it too. I mean, we have found a great vein to take our energy and our passion and put it in that space, and that's what we're doing.
Well, that's an awesome thing. It's one that for me, like, being a kid that, had to kind of be taught, in because I was very connected spiritually very young. I didn't have, access to any teachers or anything like that. And I wasn't supposed to anyway, just because I needed to understand my way of doing things. But, I never shared this with you, but I was actually a kidnapped kid when I was younger. And I was gone for 4.5 years of my life from my mom. So
how old were you?
I was 4 years old.
Oh.
Yeah. So for me, I always give my time back to help find missing kids, because I'm very in tune and I can see things and that kind of great stuff. And I volunteer my time a lot to do that for families.
That's so beautiful.
Yep.
We think about that kind of imprinting too, and what the power of that story, even as crazy and terrible as it is. My brother was adopted when he was 4, so he came over at about the same age. And just, if you have kids or you've been around them, that there's so much imprinting that goes on at that age. Mm-hmm. For you to be at this stage of your evolution, sharing this beauty with everyone, I don't know if they understand like the magnitude and power of your strength to be able to be there. So thank you so much for being courageous.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that acknowledgement and appreciation back at you, because I growing up, in Texas, I had a lot of, Vietnamese friends and a lot of, Korean friends and Philippine friends and all of that kind of stuff. And, for me, I don't ever see cultural differences. I never have. But the funny part about that was I would always go over to their house and I'd get yelled at. And so because, in any Asian language, it sounds like yelling, but it's actually not.
Yeah, we're just very passionate about our communication style. If you were at a Filipino house, you were probably singing in a karaoke machine. That's
very true. Very true. Yes.
That's so awesome.
It was a very fun experience, but that's where I got connected with Buddhism and all of those, all the temples and the ceremonies and all that kind of stuff, and it just really expanded my mind when I was a teenager, and really got me connected to those kind of things. So I have a great appreciation for all of the religions.
What can I offer your audience as well? Like, can I get you guys like some really fun mixes and some stuff like that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they love that. They love that. And I would like to see if maybe sometime in the future when I'm working on something that, whenever I'm doing a speaking thing or whatever, maybe we could collaborate and create something for the group, because like I said, I play music to help them move. So it would be an awesome thing to do a collaboration.
Absolutely. I know that one of the best things we can do, and I would love to offer any support I can, especially if you're going into this space where you're really digging deep into heart work and helping people, find the light in the shadow, or wherever you're at. If you're really working on spiritual growth with folks, I have some of the best music, that's been given to me through the best, channels. And so I'd love to obviously offer those to you for whatever you need. So yeah,
that'd be great.
And we would
and I'll leave you with one last thing, because I think it's really important. It's been coming up. I did a whole journey kind of study with how the chakras and what their frequencies are in the body.
Wow.
And how, like, when you play a guitar, the notes of the guitar are the frequency of each chakra. So that will be my parting gift to you.
Wow, that's amazing. I'm going to play the guitar right after this, then, for sure.
Yeah,
I love that.
Do some research.
Being human beings.
Yeah, I know, right? Do some research on that, because it's really an interesting thing. And I learned that. I have a good friend, Mark Stanton Welsh, and he plays guitar, and he's one of the people that taught me about guitar and the chakras in the body, and how when you play and you have the guitar on your body, then the frequency from the guitar connects to your chakras and opens them up.
Wow, it's incredible. And it makes sense too. There's 7 notes in the Western music scale, A through G, and then there's 7 chakras on the body. There's 7 colors in the spectrum. I mean, there's no coincidence. No. Aligned in that fashion.
Yeah. So I had such a great time talking with you, and I know that all of my crew will be dropping some things down. Hold on, we got a chat. Hang on. I don't know. Oh, okay. So let's get all those links in there, and we'll get all that happening, and then we'll see what happens in the future. And it was great to meet you on your
Thank you so much, Janelle. Absolutely.
And, I've enjoyed it. It's been a great conversation.
And I just downloaded your book. I'm super excited to jump into there. So hopefully we can circle back in a few months or wherever our paths cross. But I look forward to connecting with you in person at some point. And thank you so much.
All right. Bye. Have a great day. Bye.
Yeah, you too. Bye.